I speak about a greater love and people recognizing an additional version of love far beyond what they thought of love to be. And one of the things that opens that door for them is to appreciate these subtle, simple, precious expressions of the divine, like light dancing on the surface of the water in the morning sun, or the dew on the grass, or the ordinary moments. Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Art of Awakening podcast, where the art of living awake becomes a daily practice. I'm your host, Dr. Sue Morter, and today I am delighted to welcome my dear friend, Kute Blackson. So Kute is a beloved transformational teacher, an inspirational speaker, national best-selling author of You Are the One, and as well as The Magic of Surrender. And so you can just kind of get a feel for where we're headed today. For more than 20 years, he has inspired people around the world to access inner freedom, to live authentically, and to fulfill their life's true purpose. And Kute and I have shared many rich conversations over the years, exploring energy and embodiment and surrender, consciousness, and all the things that matter most. Also speaking always about what becomes possible when we return to the wholeness already within. And today we're entering a new dimension of that conversation through Kute's work with the 8 levels of gratitude. Now, this is not simply about creating a gratitude list or trying to shift our mood. It's about moving from thinking gratitude to embodying it and living from an entirely different perspective, which you know I am very interested in. And discovering how true gratitude can transform the way that we meet the past and receive the present and participate in creating the future. So I look forward. Let's dive in. Welcome, Kute. It's wonderful to have you and to see you again.
Such a joy, such an honor. I've been looking forward to this tremendously.
Yeah, so beautiful. So you and I have spoken about energy embodiment and returning to wholeness many times over the years, and from many different perspectives and angles, and just trying to open that up for people so that we move from just having conversations to really being able to visualize what it's like to live from a different version of who we are, from a vantage point that is more expansive and clear and awake. So tell me, what opened up this new chapter around gratitude for you these days? What's been up?
Wow. So many things, but as we were talking earlier, I would say one of the biggest shifts, biggest gifts, biggest activations and blessings has been having a son, having a baby, bringing a child into this world. And through that process, through that experience of being a father, being profoundly humbled moment to moment to moment, but through the eyes of my son, seeing everything for the first time, all the things that I took for granted, all the things that I didn't appreciate, all the things that I didn't notice. I began to notice all of life that I wasn't present to, so much of life that I wasn't paying attention to. I realized as he would look up at the sky and the stars and say, "Papa, what is that?" I'm like, there are stars in the sky that I had seen so many times before, but I had not paid attention to. And I began to realize that so much of my life was about getting to some destination, achieving some goal, some outcome, some better state in the future. And the more I just was spending time with my son, I got to really observe and experience him just being in awe of every moment. And I remember one day, it was such a beautiful moment. My birthday was coming up. And, previously, up until that moment, when it was my birthday, I thought, where can I go? Well, I go to Machu Picchu, have this amazing experience in Egypt, go to Bali, let me travel, let me have this sort of epic adventure, memorable moment. And I realized that my birthday was coming up, and the only thing I wanted to do was spend time with my wife and my son, just being, hanging out, sipping a cup of matcha, doing nothing, maybe just just being together. And it really didn't matter where we went and what we did and some special heightened experience. And in that moment, I began to realize every day I'm actually living my dream. Every day I'm actually living my best life, even in the on an ordinary Wednesday, on an ordinary Thursday, no great heightened state of awakening or enlightenment, just an ordinary Thursday being with my son. And so every day I'm living my birthday. And I think it made me really begin to appreciate the moment and appreciate my life and feel the gratitude for the ordinary moments, and so often I had been chasing these special moments in my meditation, these special moments in a yoga session, and the gratitude for just the ordinary moments through the experience of my son, the gratitude of being able to do nothing with him and feeling and seeing and observing him grow and life grow, this sort of amazing consciousness that was growing inside of him in every moment, seeing how, wow, as challenging as it is, as sometimes difficult as being a parent is, and waking up at 3 in the morning and 4 in the morning and constant non-stop. It's non-stop, Dr. Sue, literally. And, I remember one day, here he was, 2 a.m., being a toddler, changing his diapers, and I thought to myself, there's nothing else I would rather do. And that was a moment where he's my greatest teacher, and he's taught me about just the gratitude for just existence, for the moment, for the ordinary things of life. And so that's been a beautiful opening. So much of my life was about waking up, and it still is in a certain sense, waking up to the higher states of consciousness. But through this experience, part of the journey has been, you could say, waking down. I know you talk about into the body, waking down into the body, waking down into life, bringing the sort of higher awareness into every moment, and so that's been a huge blessing of just feeling the gratitude for living, existing the moments, the ordinary moments. Yeah, that was the opening.
Oh my goodness, Coot, it's so wonderful to hear you speak into this. That I speak about a greater love, and really people recognizing an additional version of love far beyond what they thought of love to be. And many of the embodiment practices that I teach are really bringing people into that experience. And one of the things that opens that door for them is to appreciate these subtle, simple, precious expressions of the divine, like light dancing on the surface of the water in the morning sun, or the dew on the grass, or the smell in the air after a rain, or what you're calling these ordinary moments of just being in the nothingness and doing and just discovering what comes up next. And really what we're describing here is presence in life that is expanding for an individual when they begin to accept and embrace deeper parts of themselves, instead of trying to be on this achieving, accomplishing route of life. You were very successful in doing that, and so I find it miraculous when an individual is structured and achieving and accomplishing and building, and then also discovers this beauty that you're describing without having to have a crash and a collapse of some sort of life experience that makes them hit the bottom of the barrel, and then they come up, being able to express these kinds of things. And I absolutely love that you're allowing love to bring you to that place, just by the true nature of appreciating the life force of your son coming into your life, and being a teacher, being the one who points out these subtleties, and you being able to discover the significance of them. I think if every human being on the planet could tap into such things, the world would certainly be a better place.
I would say, yeah. I remember there was one special moment when I was working in my office downstairs, and there's a glass door, and I'm, busily working, trying to impact humanity and send these emails and make a difference. And I'm going nonstop. And my son, this is where it first hit me. My son, he must have been about 2 at the time, and he was banging on the door like, Papa, banging. I'm like, no, leave me alone. I'm doing important stuff. I'm trying to work here, and I need to focus. And I'm like, shooing him away. And I remember turning and looking at him and seeing the look in his eyes, the wonder, the desire to connect with me. And I'm like shooing him away. And I could see the kind of a moment of kind of disappointment. And when I looked into his eyes, that's when I realized like these moments will never come again. That handprint on the glass will never come again. And there will come a moment in the future, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years from now, where I will be begging to spend time with him. I'll be the one banging on the door, saying, son, spend time with me. And so in that moment, I realized, wow, that like what's really important, as you say, is the loving, is the
Yeah.
love.
It's amazing how love collapses time. Here he is wanting to spend loving time with daddy, and you're able to project into the future, realizing there's going to be a moment where daddy's wanting to spend time with son. And so the whole thing just collapses in upon itself because of the love that you're able to recognize in that moment. Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing. So thrilled to hear about it. So so how does this translate into gratitude? I mean, obviously there's this appreciation, this knowingness, and this awareness of what matters most, and being able to interrupt our patterns in order to see what's available to us regarding love, even if we don't have, the 2-year old or the 4-year old, banging on the door or just asking to share their innocence with us. Anytime that anyone can pause and truly be caught by this graciousness that is surrounding us, it enlivens them in a new way. And so when I heard that you were, writing about gratitude and working with that specifically, I became curious as to
Yeah.
what was the translation there for you, so that we can share that with our listeners
You know, what,
to
what I
implement
be,
it in their lives.
what I began to do was be very kind of intentional about the gratitude, because I think so often we focus on how much further we need to go. We don't remember how far we've come and what we've overcome. We focus on what we don't have. We're not truly acknowledging what we do have. And so that's when I broke it down into 8 levels to simplify it. And that first level for me of gratitude is just that basic level to make it super practical, which is just the acknowledgement of what we have, whether it's a lot, whether it's not a lot, but we all have something. So for me, it became a process of looking around my life and not looking at what I don't have, but just, even if it's a small thing, for me, abundance is not about what you have or what you don't have. True abundance is a willingness to recognize and appreciate who you are, to recognize and appreciate what you do have. It's a state of being. It's an inner state of feeling the gratitude for what you have. And so, first level is the gratitude for what you have. And I think many of us, we have a lot. In the West, we have a lot. I mean, I was just in India a few months back, and there's folks that I met that literally, if you sold everything that they have physically, their entire net worth would be about $100. They make about $100, maybe 75 to $100 a month. And so these are folks that don't have a lot. So I think in the West, we have a lot, whether it's, and so first level is just look around and start by acknowledging what you do have. And a pen, a cup. So there's folks that don't have a cup. Sounds basic, but we often don't appreciate what we have, right? And a cell phone, a watch, a straw to drink. And so that's for me level one. For me, the next level is just being willing to acknowledge all of the things in life that have happened, whether it's someone smiled at you today, it doesn't have to be a big thing, whether it's, the podcast conversation with you, whether it's someone sent you a beautiful text, whatever it is, just start by acknowledging what has happened. But for me, the third level, which is where things get interesting, is the acknowledgement of what did not happen. Because often our appreciation, our gratitude is dependent on, we make it dependent on things going our way. We make it dependent on the outcome going our way, manifesting the goal, the dream and desire. And then our sense of gratitude and joy and happiness becomes very conditional, becomes driven and dependent on external things going a certain way and going according to plan and everything lining up a certain way. And then we become kind of slaves to the external, right? And so for me, looking at the gratitude for the things in your life that did not happen. When I look back at my life, there were so many things in my life that I thought I wanted. There were so many goals that I thought I wanted to manifest. There were relationships. I mean, we've all had these experiences, relationships that I was sure was the one that I was sure I wanted to last forever. And now, from this vantage point today, being married and having a son and being deeply in love with my wife, I look back at some of those relationships and I think to myself, thank God they didn't work out. Thank God they didn't happen. And so sometimes things not going according to plan, things not manifesting how we wanted, things not turning out the way we expected, even though we can't see it in the moment from the current perspective of our ego's vantage point, is grace, is a divine redirection, is the infinite love of the universe unfolding in a perfect manner, even though we're not aware or can't see the whole picture. And so looking back and cultivating gratitude for the things that didn't happen. And I think that's a start. And I think many times we often miss that. We often overlook that. We're not seeing that. The next level is looking at the experiences of your life, looking at everything you've been through, and cultivating an appreciation and a gratitude for the lessons that you've learned. And many times I think we miss that, the lessons. Maybe the goal didn't manifest. Maybe the relationship didn't work out. Maybe you didn't achieve what you set out to achieve. But I guarantee you, every one of us went on a journey. We went through a process of pursuit, a process, and through that pursuit, a process of learning lessons, a process of evolution, a process of becoming. And so I think each of us in the process of living life, we've learned so much. I know I have. There's many, I say in quotes, mistakes I've made, but looking back, they were amazing learning opportunities. And I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't make some of those, what seemed like missteps or misturns in that moment based on the level of my consciousness. And so I would say feeling the gratitude for the lessons, because the lessons that we learn are part of the evolution of our consciousness. And at the end of our life, we take nothing with us. No car, no house, no watch, no Bitcoin, no book, no piece of jewelry. Even King Tut, if you go, as you know, you've been to Egypt, right? I remember going to the Cairo Museum and then seeing all of his gold. And I remember walking around the Cairo Museum one day, looking around and going, there's an entire floor of King Tutankhamun's wealth in gold and artifacts, and he's not here. He couldn't take any of that with him. And so we take none of the stuff with us, none of the achievements, none of the accolades, none of the objects, none of the material stuff. But I think what goes with us is the lessons that we learned and the evolution of our consciousness. And so I think for all of us, because sometimes we often judge ourselves as successful or failures based on the achievement of specific outcomes. But for me, true success is not just the achievement of an outcome on the goal line, but underneath the goal line, I would say there is a soul line, the lessons that our soul is seeking to learn through each experience. And I think part of success I have found is the degree to which I learn and grow, and I use every experience for my growth and evolution. To me, that's the real success. That's the real success. that I perceive. And so looking and feeling the gratitude for the lessons. Many of us, we have evolved so much. We have learned so much. We have a wealth of lessons and knowledge and wisdom through our life experience that often we don't acknowledge and we don't appreciate because we're looking at the one dimensional level of achievement. And so I would say gratitude for the lessons, celebrating the lessons. The next level is just the gratitude for the people in our lives, gratitude for you, gratitude for my wife, gratitude for friendships, because I think at the end of life, true wealth, again, is not what you have because that comes and goes, but part of true wealth, an expression of true wealth is the ability to express love, the ability to give love, the ability to receive love through one's relationships. And so many of us, even if it's one person, you have one person in your life that has been a blessing. Maybe there's no one in your life, but you look back and go, wow, there were several. I look back at my life and I see in specific moments of my life, there were people that seemed like divine angels that were sent at particular moments in my life that had they not showed up, my life would have been radically different. So just feeling the gratitude. I remember, random story, but I remember when I was 21 years old and I had no money and I had this beautiful girlfriend that I wanted to impress, and we drove up to San Francisco in my beat up car on the Grapevine on the 5, and it goes, it starts winding up and my car breaks down. I had no money and I'm kind of feeling really embarrassed, and 2 hours later, I'm just stuck on the freeway. And I kid you not, this random guy pulled his car over, stopped, didn't know me from Adam, asked me if I need help, goes into my engine, fixes something, drives off like nothing, asks for nothing, doesn't say anything, just leaves. And then I'm able to drive to San Francisco. And so just gratitude for the people in your life, gratitude for a smile, gratitude for a teacher, gratitude for, I would say, look at your life and intentionally cultivate gratitude for the people in your life. And I think many times you'll see and you'll feel that there is more life and more love in your life than perhaps you're paying attention to. I would say then another level of gratitude is gratitude for who you are. I think many times on the path of personal growth, as amazing as it is, we're often looking to improve ourselves and better ourselves and become our best selves. But sometimes in that pursuit, we don't acknowledge who we are, because there's all, if I can heal, if I can go to therapy and heal myself and clear my trauma, if I can shift my patterns and addictions and ways of being, and then I can become some idealized version of who I think I need to be in order to be more lovable, more acceptable, more worthy, then I'll be enough, then I'll be grateful. And so often I think we sometimes think that the grass is greener on the other side, or when we become something else and we're not looking at the grass where we are, and remembering that sometimes the grass is greener where you water it. And when you focus on what is beautiful about yourself, which many times we don't, when you focus on what is beautiful about yourself, what is beautiful can begin to be nurtured and blossom because we give it energy. And so really looking at oneself, not just looking at how far I have to go and how much I need to heal and how much I need to clear and how much I need to release and but no, looking at who am I? And sometimes it's just the acknowledgement of, wow, I have integrity, and acknowledging that. That's an amazing quality to have. I keep my word. I'm a loyal friend. And so I think the more we can feed and focus on the beauty of who we are, the beauty of who we are can strengthen and becomes enlivened. And so the gratitude, feeling the gratitude for who you are, which we often don't appreciate about ourselves. The other thing is, I think the gratitude, this is kind of level 7, the gratitude for the things in your life that have not happened yet. The things you want to manifest in the future, the dream, the soulmate, the money, and so often our gratitude is dependent on the outcome or the manifestation happening, and we wait for the thing to happen in order to feel grateful. And now we have a very conditional relationship to life. And I'm actually saying no. There's actually a shift that needs to happen when we can start feeling the feeling and cultivating the gratitude of already having, cultivating the gratitude for it already being done, and feeling that as already done and celebrating it and feeling the joy for it. Then we unhook ourselves from the external outcomes needing to happen, and we start experiencing it as already happening and happened within ourselves already. Then we're not dependent on the outcome. Then I'm going to say it even doesn't matter if it happens or not. We're cultivating the feeling. And so that level of gratitude, I think, is super powerful. I think we have to have it. If we want to have something, we have to have it in order to have it. And so not waiting for the thing to happen in order to feel happy and joyful and have the feeling, but start cultivating the gratitude for it already happening. I was joking with a friend the other day and saying, okay, if you really want your soul, this is kind of a tongue in cheek, but I want to maybe invite someone to try it. Rather than wait, if you want to manifest a soulmate, don't wait for your soulmate to show up. I invited my friend to throw a celebration party for her engagement and invite a few friends. And she said, but I'm not, I don't have I have not met someone. And I said, don't wait to meet the person. Actually invite friends and celebrate, an engagement party for your soulmate, and just feel that energy inside of you. And so, gratitude for the things in your life that you want to happen that have not happened, but cultivating the gratitude, the pre-gratitude, cultivating the gratitude for that right now. Lastly, I would say gratitude for a human incarnation. And I think many times we miss that because, I mean, life can be challenging. The human incarnation, let's face it, is not always easy. It's sometimes hard. It sometimes seems painful. It can be difficult in moments. But when I look at life, we are souls that have incarnated into this human experience, and we get to, as humans, for me, life is beautiful not because it's perfect. Life is beautiful not because it goes our way. Life is beautiful not because there's not pain. As human beings, we're like consciousness that is manifesting in this human form, and we get to experience the totality of the entire range of the human experience. We get to experience, it's not like we're just limited to experience only bliss, 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 bliss all the time. We get to experience bliss, we get to experience joy, we get to experience sadness, we get to experience all of the flavors of the human experience. We get to experience grief, we get to experience heartbreak. Imagine that you went to an ice cream shop and the only thing on the menu was just vanilla, and that was it. But in this human experience, we get to experience the entire flavor of life. And so to be able to feel the gratitude for this human experience, and as challenging as it is, as difficult as it is, as challenging as it can be, I would say that most of us, when the physical drops and we move to another dimension and we look back in that moment, I think many of us would want to come right back and experience this wild adventure. For me, life is a wild, crazy, amazing, blissful, ecstatic, joyful, challenging adventure and opportunity. And so just feeling the gratitude for a human incarnation. We are these infinite beings. We are pure consciousness that is manifesting in this simulation, in this life, three-dimensional experience, and we get to touch and taste and feel and play and make love and have kids and feel the whole range. And I think that in the moments of challenge it's difficult, but when we step back and go, wow, this whole thing is amazing. We get to see a moon, we get to see clouds, we get to see the sun, we get to, fall in love. It's like, wow, these two random human beings get to meet and experience this feeling, this something called love, and communicate and understand each other. For me, this whole thing is a freaking miracle, and I think many times I know I don't always appreciate that. And so, yeah, cultivating the gratitude for human experience has been part of my journey as well.
It's so wonderful to hear you describe these various levels or aspects of coming into the vibrational frequency of gratitude. What I know about energy and the research that I've been in, since the beginning of time, it seems, for many lifetimes, and definitely in this lifetime, growing up in an environment where, the discussion was about consciousness and energy and how it influences everything. Our perspective influences everything, and in our lives, and including our ability to heal or to achieve or to awaken to any component of life. And in the descriptions that you're walking us through regarding gratitude, it's by choosing gratitude, we're actually moving through a doorway into a realm that is closer to the truth than the one that we are dialed into when we are striving and struggling and fretting and cursing and wishing that it was different, and holding on to painful moments from the past as if they shouldn't have happened. And whether people realize that they're holding on to something in that perspective or not, the thing that I have found has been profoundly impactful in keeping someone from being able to flourish in the abundance and the beauty of life is that at even some subconscious level, they're still holding on to the things that have unfolded in their life as if they should have gone a different way, as if they never should have happened, and so on. And if they were to ever evolve and resolve that circumstance, they would move through a vibrational frequency of gratitude. The vibration, the energetic itself, is one of realizing that there has been benefit, realizing and appreciating that there has been good in all things that have unfolded. And when we dial into that very energetic vibration, our nervous systems regulate, our body starts healing, our creative genius starts turning on again instead of being suppressed by our survival mechanisms that are, in place and standing by all the time. And so people evolve by dialing into gratitude and appreciation, presence, the way that you're describing. And so I love that you're listing out the ways that we can go through that doorway by simple things of what has happened in our lives, by the simple things that what has not yet happened in our lives, the simple things of what have I learned, who have I become, what is unfolding. What we're doing in that moment is tapping into a through line that is a common connection all the way from the heavens to here, all the way from here to the heavens, that there is something flowing through every life experience. And when we move into gratitude, we start to be able to perceive that through line. We start to be able to feel there's a purpose and there's a plan and there's a grace about my life, and that things are unfolding the way that they are intended to. And my life will flourish the more I allow this to happen. So that you're showing people how to come in this door or come in this door or come in these 8 doorways are basically putting people in the river of grace that is just waiting for us to experience life from this perspective. When you're speaking about gratitude from these perspectives, how does someone know that it's working? That they're dialing into the thing that you're describing that has changed your life experience, to know that it's more than just making a list of things and that it's going to have an impactful imprinting, effect on their system and on their life? What are some of the signs that people would begin noticing or sensing that are happening as a byproduct of this disposition?
Yeah, I think that what starts happening is your perspective starts shifting. When you start cultivating the gratitude, perspective starts shifting. You're able to see things from a different viewpoint. And maybe before you were locked into a certain way of seeing things that wasn't the whole picture, but the gratitude also allows you to see things from, I would say, different angles. And because there's more space, then there's more freedom. And so I would say you begin to experience more fullness, more peace, more joy, more internal relaxation, a deeper sense of trusting life and how life is unfolding, even if you don't understand why something is happening in the moment. Because many times when things happen, because we don't see the entire picture and we don't see the entire unfolding, and from the perspective of the limitation of our current consciousness, we may not see the entire flow of life. But I would say that we begin to trust the flow more. And that feeling of trusting the flow and trusting life, trusting the divine, trusting that, okay, even though I can't see why it's happening and what is happening in my life from my current perspective, I trust that life is unfolding. And so that feeling of trust, which allows a surrender, a relaxation, a peacefulness, I think that's a sign, and also I think what that opens up in that gratitude is rather than waiting until you're done with the experience, because there's that deeper sense of knowing, you don't wait till you're through it to even cultivate the gratitude. Like, oh, at a certain moment I'll look back and appreciate and understand, because you have a deeper sense of trust and peace. I think the ability to start cultivating some gratitude whilst you're going through it opens up as well. And I think that allows for a more surrendered participation, an open heartedness, and a surrendered participation with life as it's happening, with life as it's unfolding. And so peace, surrender, trust is what starts opening up more.
I can definitely say that in the moments of the most exalted up-levelings that I have experienced in my own consciousness as a byproduct of embodying more even and more deeply these higher realms and higher states of consciousness that I've am exposed to in my meditations and just in the way that my life unfolds. So often there is so much beauty and appreciation just pouring out of me. It's like I notice every little nuance of life and love it. I fall in love over and over and over again, and it's truly in the light of what you're speaking about. It's an appreciation for everything that unfolds in this life, for all of the full circle that has come around with issues that were plaguing me 20 years ago, and how they come around full circle, and the people that were so unkind are asking me for advice or opening up or wanting to hear and to know. And all of that is unfolding because of living in this frequency that you're describing. And I also noticed that my tendency to react to things has completely shifted. Like where a knee-jerk reaction when something doesn't go the way that you're anticipating or would like it to go, or someone does or says something that is completely, out of any sort of alignment with what you would think would be unfolding in a moment like this, there's just a presence that is sort of a buffer that just absorbs all of that and allows all of it to remain in this flow. And I know that it is fed by this gratitude and appreciation as a disposition, as just being in this state of love and presence in life. But I want to ask a question for people who feel like they're just really locked down in grief or anger or disillusionment in some way. What do you find happens when someone says, what you're saying here is it's all great, Kute. It's I would love to be able to feel that way, but I'm consumed in this feeling of anger or the suppressed, sadness that's just eating me alive. How do you bridge that for people?
Yeah, I would say first it's okay to feel it, you know. Let's first acknowledge the feeling. You don't have to stay there, you don't have to wallow in it, you don't have to over reinforce it, but it's okay to acknowledge what you feel because likely that feeling that you feel, whether it's dissatisfaction, frustration, anger, for me is a signal that perhaps something is not in alignment, something in what you're doing or what you're living, you've outgrown, is not resonating, that perhaps there is a deeper truth. There's something deeper within you that maybe you're not fully seeing, listening to, acknowledging, acting on. There's a deeper truth, a deeper knowing, a deeper feeling that you're not admitting to or accepting yet. And there's perhaps something you've been suppressing over time, suppressing a part of yourself, suppressing a deeper feeling, suppressing a deeper knowing, suppressing something you know you're here to do, betraying some part of yourself. So usually if you're feeling that anger, frustration, I would say step back and don't distract from it. Many times when we feel that feeling of anger and frustration, and we because it's uncomfortable, we go into social media, we drink it away, smoke it away, drug it away, sex it away, shop it away, travel it away, just so that we don't feel it. So I would say acknowledge it, welcome it, and see, because for me feelings are not good or bad, they are often just a signal that there's something that is needing your attention. There is something that is seeking your attention, something that you're needing to hear, feel, face, and acknowledge. And I would say when we don't tell the truth to ourselves, when we're not living in alignment with our deeper truth, over time, it is painful. When we're not living in alignment with our true, authentic inner knowing and inner integrity, many of us, we stay in relationships that we know deep down are not aligned. We know it's not aligned, and we stay for whatever the reason. We're afraid to leave, afraid of the unknown, and feel guilty, and so we suppress our truth. We stay in relationships that we know are not aligned. We stay in jobs, in situations that we know we're kind of betraying ourselves, and our true soul's purpose isn't expressing, and we're having to suppress that part of ourselves. We say yes when we mean no. We allow certain situations and certain boundaries to be crossed consistently over and over again. And so I think the first place for us to start is, what is this anger? What is this pain? What is this feeling trying to communicate to me? And have the willingness. I think if we can just start with the willingness to acknowledge what we feel and tell ourselves the truth, starting there. What is the truth of what I feel? What lies have I been telling myself? What lies have I been telling myself? What am I pretending to not know? Many times the ego can play this game of, I'm not sure, I'm confused, I don't know, when deep down we do know. What is the what are the lies that I'm telling myself? What is it costing me? And so I think if we're willing to just feel, acknowledge, and start by telling ourselves the truth, then things can shift. Because when we don't tell ourselves the truth and we suppress the truth that we're holding, then pain is often a result. And that pain will manifest as anger, as frustration, as depression. That pain will manifest in the body in some way, right? That pain will manifest in terms of an energetic blockage. And as a result, life stops flowing because our energy isn't circulating. That pain might manifest in that you might manifest people in your life that act out the suppressed feeling that you're also not acknowledging. And so acknowledge the feeling, have the courage to acknowledge it fully, and have the courage to ask yourself, what are the lies I'm telling myself? What am I not feeling fully? What are the truths I'm not telling? And I think if we can start there, the willingness to tell ourselves the truth, then things can begin shifting. Things can begin shifting, because for me, all feelings are a gift, and all feelings are trying to communicate something deeper to us. And maybe the communication is, I'm in a relationship that is not aligned, and I've been lying to myself about that for 5, 10 years. I'm in a job that I hate, where I'm selling my soul, and I feel pain and I feel frustration. I've been betraying myself over and over and over again to get love and validation. And so it should feel painful. And I think if we can acknowledge it and recalibrate and begin telling the truth and making different choices, often that signal of the pain can begin to dissolve. And I think sometimes it can be a bit scary to acknowledge the truth that is underneath the pain that we're feeling, because often we're afraid of the consequence of what will happen if I actually acknowledge what I really feel and the truth that's underneath the feeling. What will happen to my life? What will happen to my relationship? And that's where we often, resist and disconnect and defend and negotiate and suppress the truth. So I would say to people, let go of any need to take action and do anything. Just put that to the side for a moment and simply start by acknowledging the truth. Because often the fear of the action that I need to take and the consequence of that action disconnects us from truly acknowledging what's underneath the feeling, the truth that's underneath the feeling. And if we can just start by acknowledging the truth and feeling that, then we can begin to course correct and shift our actions.
I was in an interview today. Someone asked me this same question. I was being interviewed, and they were asking, what happens if all of a sudden someone's realizing a deeper truth and they get afraid that this structure that they've built for their life will just crash and crumble and everything will fall apart. And what I was sharing was what you're sharing here, is that something is building underneath that structure. The more honest we become with ourselves, the more accepting of what is true for us we become, there is a greater love that is pouring into us all the time, that begins to be able to fill up this vessel that we are walking around as, in a mountainous sort of way. It fills in the structure with something unwobbleable. It fills in the structure with goodness, with presence, with love and compassion, and an ability to reframe things. So it's not that the structures collapse, it's that they start to reinvent themselves because of what we're now bringing into the inner sanctum of those structures. So I just really want everyone to be reminded that, as we start to ask ourselves these deeper questions and we start to investigate, what am I, pretending not to see or pretending not to know. It doesn't mean that if these things just need to come blurting out of your mouth and then your whole life is going to fall apart. It's absolutely never that. It doesn't have to be that at all. Instead, it's about bringing a richness to the circumstances that you are in. And if a decision needs to be made for you to change a relationship or change a career focus or a path in some way, you'll have the wherewithal to do that with an empowered grace because of this reality that you're cultivating through the openness that begins with something as simple as appreciation and gratitude. We begin to fill ourselves in ways that we never had before. So in that, Kute, if someone is, on this path, they're answering these questions, they're asking these questions and they're feeling the answers. How do you suggest that they proceed in terms of implementing what they're realizing because of the openness that has been generated? What steps do they take? How do they approach transformative, actions that can allow for these transformations to happen in their lives?
Yeah, I think for me, truth is the first step, because nothing shifts until you acknowledge where you're at and what you feel. When you can acknowledge where you're at and what you feel, then you have the opportunity to feel it, the opportunity to shift it, the opportunity to make different decisions. And I think changing one's life, as you mentioned, doesn't have to be blowing everything up. If you're in a relationship and you realize, I'm not in love anymore, something's off, you can suppress that or you can tell the truth about it, but nothing shifts until you tell the truth. And so if you start with that analogy, I'm in a relationship. I know something's not right. I'm not in love. It's been 5 years. You don't have to get a divorce, blow everything up. But if you can just start with the truth, and then that might lead to feeling deeply what your truth is, feeling deeply, allowing yourself the time to feel deeply the grief, the sadness, the pain, the anger, the emotions, the disappointment. And then that might lead to a conversation, a simple conversation, a courageous conversation with your partner. And that doesn't mean it will lead to a breakup. Maybe that simple conversation or courageous conversation is just a step that can lead to an opening. It might lead to a breakthrough. It might lead to a deeper conversation. It might lead to a deeper understanding. It might lead to a reinvention of your relationship. And so just feeling the truth, seeing what comes up, acknowledging what comes up, and taking a step. For me, life is transformed not necessarily all at once, but through a process of just taking the next step. And so if you're in a relationship, the next step might be having a conversation with your partner, a courageous conversation, and saying, hey, I want to talk to you. I want to have a conversation. I love to share some things and have an exploration, not necessarily saying, hey, I want a divorce and I want to break up. It's just there's some things in my heart that I've been feeling that I would love to have a conversation. And my intention is to have a deeper exploration. My intention is to see if we can, figure some things out together, and start there without any agenda or attachment or projection to what you think will happen or what you think will go on. Because many times from that initial feeling, the mind starts projecting into the future a kind of negative future fantasy about what we think is going to happen and what we think isn't going to happen. And then we scare ourselves and freak ourselves out about all of the worst case scenarios about what we think is going to happen that often will never happen. And as a result, we then end up living in such fear that stops us from just taking the next step, which might be the conversation, And so I would just say, just start, start with the conversation, start with the next step. If you're in a job and you're like, I hate my job, just start by acknowledging, I hate my job. I'm not going to pretend that I hate my job, and just feel that. Give yourself a moment to feel that for a moment. Like, this is the truth. This is not aligned. No judgment, no negotiation, no resistance. This is just not aligned. It is what it is. And then that might lead to a conversation with your spouse. That might lead to a conversation with your boss or a conversation with your coworkers. That might lead to beginning the process of the exploration of what could I do instead? What is a more aligned direction for me? And so it doesn't mean you blow up your job and give your notice, but you just start the exploration now. Let me take the next step. Let me just lean in and take the next step. I don't have to have the entire life path figured out and the entire career figured out and my purpose figured out. But if I just lean in and take the next step and start feeling into the question, okay, I don't know what I want to do next, but I do know that this is not aligned. And so you can then take a step to begin an exploration. What does light me up? What do I love? Where would I like to spend my energy? What would I like the experience of my work and my daily expression? What is the feeling I want to experience? I don't know what it looks like yet, but there's a feeling. And you just start leaning, and that might mean doing some research. That might mean going on ChatGPT and Google and beginning the process of researching, asking some friends for some feedback, and you take a step. I have found that many times when we feel this deeper truth, we go into the future, create a negative future fantasy about all the things that are going to happen that might not happen. We freak ourselves out. We don't take a step, or we project into the future and we try to figure out the entire pathway of our life up front from this vantage point of who we are today. But we'll never be able to necessarily figure everything out from the perspective we're looking at today. And because of that, we don't take the next step. And the next step can just be a small step, as I've mentioned, a small step. And what I found is when you take a step, which many of us never take that step because we're stuck in the fear, when you take a step, life then reveals to you the next step. Then you take another step. Then life reveals to you the next step. Then you take another step. Life then often reveals to you the next step. And then the next step and the next step. And often you'll end up living into the life that you had somehow intuited and felt, but may not have been able to see from that big step one or that beginning standpoint. And then you end up living into the life of your dreams. And so life is often, I think, revealed to us in the process of just taking a step. You take another step, you take another step, you lean in, life reveals the next step, and all of a sudden the momentum builds of creating the life that you desire. And so I would say to people, just start, take a step.
I often invite people to, when they're starting a conversation that's a challenging one, to just lead out loud with, okay, this is going to be clunky. I don't know what I'm saying here. I'm just going to try this. I'm just going for it. To just really be transparent about that initial step. And it allows people to move into it without the expectation of having it all perfectly lined up, ducks in a row, and have the solution in mind before we even begin the conversation. I totally agree and appreciate your come from on all of that. Before we thank you for all of this, for being here and for leaning into life more deeply and from a deep place of authenticity. It's so wonderful to hear your perspectives on that journey, and I know that guidance will be evident for our listeners. Before we wrap up, I just want to make sure that you share with the listeners how to find you and where they can find the experience of the 8 levels of gratitude in your new book, and to work with anything that you might be offering. I know you're headed back to Bali and the many things that you do. I love the fact that when I was in Bali, my first trip to Bali, I happened to run into you on the street of Ubud, walking into a cafe. So I know that you are at home in those beautiful places as well. So please just share with everyone how they can have more of Kute.
Yeah, I created an online course with 8 videos about a year ago. It's been downloaded by thousands of folks, and I decided to gift it to the world for free. And it's called the 8 Levels of Gratitude. People can go to the 8levelsofgratitude.com and just enter your name and your email, and you'll receive 8 amazing videos where I go much more in depth in terms of the 8 levels of gratitude. If you're inspired to, my book, The Magic of Surrender, is available on Amazon or wherever books are able to be bought. This is where I share about how to find the courage to let go of what is not aligned so that you can truly surrender and open to your highest soul's expression. And yes, for the last 15 years, I have facilitated a really deep dive transformational event in Bali. It's a very unique process. It's 12 days. It's a 12-day experiential seminar training without walls. And I use Bali as the backdrop to facilitate the transformation. It's really about designed for those folks. If you feel that you've been put on the planet for a purpose that's bigger than yourself, and you know that's why you're here, and you feel ready to transform and break through. The last 15 years, I've done 25 events in Bali, and they're truly, truly special and unique and life-changing. 2024, I was guided to stop doing them. I didn't do any in 2025, but I received a kind of download in my meditation midway through the year that my mission wasn't quite done yet, and I decided to do one more year. And so this December the 5th through the 16th is my final event in Bali. It's called Boundless Bliss. People can go to www.boundlessblissbali.com. That's boundlessblissbali.com. And then you can find me on Instagram, Kute Blackson, and all socials.
Beautiful, beautiful. We'll put all these links in the show notes as well, of course, everyone. And I just want to thank you again, Kute, for being here, for sharing so authentically, and really allowing the unfolding of your own journey to be wisdom that's passed into the circles of our podcast and our larger community. So thank you, thank you. I want to thank all of you as well for spending time with us today on the Art of Awakening podcast, where we're blending science and spirituality to create a life that you truly do love living. It is the life that you're meant to be living, and it's always a joy to open up these doorways for you to drop into this deeper truth of who you are. All right. So until next time, I'm Dr. Sue Morter. Blessings, blessings to you all. Bye-bye for now.